Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Berkeley County Board of Education meeting this Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. I call the meeting to order. I declare a quorum of members present, and the media has been notified. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. McQuillan, a second from Ms. Wofford to approve the agenda.
Ms. Tanner.
Oh, I thought
Or
both of
Mr.
you
Ramsey.
spoke.
See, it's fine either way.
That's cool.
Ms. Tanner made the second to approve the agenda. I think I said that right. Yes. All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it by a vote of 6-0. We need a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting of December 14th, 2021.
Made a motion.
Second. Oh,
We have a motion from Mr. Ramsey, a second from Ms. Wofford to approve the minutes of the December 14 meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it by a vote of 6-0. We need a motion to enter into executive session.
so moved. Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Wofford, a second from Ms. Tanner to enter into executive session. The stated purposes of the executive session are to be discussion of employment, demotion, discipline, or release of an employee or employees as needed, legal update regarding a pending, threatened, or potential claim or other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege, and 2D, 3 student expulsion appeals. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion to enter into executive session, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it by a vote of 6-0. We are in executive session.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Wofford, a second from Ms. Tanner to return to regular session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of returning to regular session, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it by a vote of 6-0. We are in regular session, and for the record, no action was taken in executive session. The next agenda item is 3A. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Next agenda item, I will defer to Ms. Tanner, a visual art recognition.
I would like to recognize this evening Whitesville Elementary School and their visual arts department taught by Aaron Estep. Student artwork has been displayed in the entryway for everyone's enjoyment. If you have not done so before the board meeting, please take time afterwards to take a look at this display of talent by our amazing students.
Thank you, Ms. Tanner. Please take the opportunity to look at our student artwork. They're fantastic young folks that are doing a marvelous job in visual arts and every other arena of endeavor. Moving on, we'll go to citizens' comments and the procedures for citizens' comments. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, We ask that you honor the following guidelines. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or to halt public comments that do not adhere to the guidelines. Our first speaker is Tori Liferidge, and the comment is issues on new district lines.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you. Superintendent Jackson, Chairman Barrow, Board. Tonight, I apologize in advance. I have Bible study on tonight, so I always try to get a little piece if I can. So I may not be here for the answer to my question if there is one, but I will be able to go back and view the live stream later on. Late last year, our local delegation had a meeting, and as part of that meeting, they addressed the redrawing of the school district lines. And I've requested the minutes from that meeting. It was not a live stream meeting, so still haven't gotten those minutes yet. But my question and my concern is I would like to know the board's perspective of supporting such a measure. Is this something that the board has always been thinking about and just not been made public? Why this juncture, or why this action now from our delegation? I didn't hear it from the school board, so I would be curious to know what is the school board's reflection, comments. How did you advise the delegation? Did you have concerns? And if so, what were those concerns so that we, the public, might also know what that is? And I'll share this because my fear, those of us who are John Q. Public, we worked really hard last year because we felt like there was damage to the sacred trust between what you all do and we in the public. And so to know that we did that and we rooted out a lot, and to find now that our county council is responsible for drawing these new lines to be in concert with the county council lines, none of that seems above board to me. And that's my reflection, and I would love to hear the school board's kind of directives regarding this. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liferidge. Our next speaker is Ms. Ann Conder on learning loss. Welcome, Ms. Conder.
It's a little high for me. Michael, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Mac, good to see you. Sally, it's great seeing you. I hope you all had a good Christmas. Superintendent Jackson, it's great seeing you. I've been absent from the board meetings over the past couple of months. Took a little sabbatical, a little time out for myself. Feeling somewhat overwhelmed. And the question that I have for this board, as I look at the past agendas for the past couple of months and the agenda that's being presented tonight, my question is, why are you not addressing learning loss? We had a year and a half almost of children losing academics and their abilities to be academically on target. I want to know why it's more important that you address issues like putting in cell towers, changing district lines, changing policies instead of saying a child cannot fail, or if a child fails, and replacing it with words like they do not meet certain standards. Why are you so focused on that? I want to know why you're not focused on learning loss. You've got ESSER funds. Sure, you're going to meet the 20% of putting those funds towards learning loss. The federal government's not going to require you to do any more than that. But you're also going to take a lot of that money and put it towards your Christmas list. My take on it is this, and if I were still serving on this board, I tell you what I'd be pushing for. Even if it took individual tutors to get each and every child in this district caught up to the level that they need to be caught up. If you studied development, childhood development, you would know what I'm talking about. I studied it. There are windows of opportunity for children to learn certain things at certain ages. And if you miss that window, then that child has lost a building block. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
May I say something, sir?
Yes, ma'am. You're
Ms.
allowed.
Condor, I hope you had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year also. Thank you.
The next speaker is Dr. Sheila Foster on cell tower safety. Welcome back, Dr. Foster.
Slim Shady. Slim Shady.
Is that low enough? Is that low enough? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, fine, thank you. Cell phone towers or base stations receive and transmit cell phone signals using radio frequency or RF waves. RF waves, like visible light and heat, are non-ionizing and do not directly damage the DNA in cells, as opposed to ionizing radiation such as X-rays and gamma rays that are thought to cause cancer. But they have not been proven safe. Testing has been scant and more research is needed. Does that sound familiar? Opinion, not science. No mask, one mask, two masks. Vaccine you cannot spread, vaccine you cannot get. Jab 1, jab 2, jab 3. At high levels, RF waves heat up body tissue, but according to the American Cancer Society website, the levels of cell towers are not that high. Waves are given off into the environment toward the horizon, and there is some ground scatter, and people can be exposed. As with a flashlight, the ground scatter is heavier closer to the source. The website indicates that there is at present no strong evidence that exposure causes any noticeable health effects, and states it is very unlikely that a person can be exposed to levels in excess of the FCC limits. On the other hand, Physicians for Safe Technology recommend a 500-meter buffer around towers because base stations, quote, base stations emit a continuous stream of microwave radio frequency exposing residents. That's approximately 5 football fields. Are these proposed towers to be that far away from our children? Their website summarizes 28 studies finding adverse effects. Let's look at research and thought behind one government decision. AT&T and Verizon won an $80 billion auction last year for 5G towers. Now they find themselves in an aviation safety standoff. The FAA is working with them to put buffer zones around 50 airports and delay deployment of towers for 14 days to reduce the risk of interference with airplane instruments needed during low visibility takeoffs and landings. The head of the Airport Association for the United States and Canada said the entire aviation system is about to be adversely impacted by this poorly planned and coordinated expansion of 5G service in and around airports. Does poor planning and poor coordination sound familiar? This proposal may or may not be a good idea, but how many of those making that decision have even looked into research on the health effects on our children? Have our kids not suffered and put in enough distress over the past year? Don't vax, open schools, close schools, do vax. Or are we only looking at that big check that will arrive and what has, I am certain, been very smooth blarney from those pushing this?
Thank you, Dr. Foster. Our next speaker is Mr. Lynn Driscoll, request district consider active shooter drill or training. Welcome, Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, and I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak to you and everything that y'all do. I'm a father of one recent graduate of Hanahan High School, and I have 3 kids, one in elementary, one in middle school, and one at high school there in Hanahan. My wife's also an elementary teacher there. I'm a U.S. Navy reservist and former active duty sailor, so that bears into what I'm going to talk about. My concern is that we're not properly training our children for a scenario that, while rare, is a very real and devastating scenario, and that is what I'm going to call active shooter scenario or active shooter situation. This started a month ago when I asked my children and wife, what training have they received in school for an active shooter scenario? And I was my assumption was that they received something. I was incredibly disappointed to find that they had learned nothing, received no instruction or training with regards to dealing with an active shooter in our schools. The only thing that they've been taught to do is when the school is locked down. And at least that's something. But here's my problem with 2 big issues with lockdown. Number 1, it's completely dependent on teachers. So the teachers have to lock the doors. The teachers tell the students what to do. The children have been told to do nothing. They don't know what to do other than what their teacher tells them. So they have no idea what that means. The second thing is I can promise you the teachers regularly break lockdown. They send students out of the classroom and leave the classrooms themselves at times. I know this because both my daughters in high school have told me this happens. They've been sent out of the classroom during lockdown when that's supposed to be not happening. So how effective is lockdown really? In the military, for many years now, we've been given mandatory active shooter training on an annual basis. It's not, obviously, we've been a target at times, the military has. It's not traumatizing and it's not onerous. It's very easy and it's very effective, and it gives people the confidence and competence to make the right decisions that could save their lives. The reality is that in an active shooter situation, you cannot leave our children's safety to the teachers who have no training or expertise in what to do in that kind of situation. And you can't leave it up to a bunch of kids to go off their instincts, because I can tell you that acting by instinct gets people killed. I know this because of multiple deployments and years of Navy training. And I was very dismayed at some of the assumptions my own kids made when I started asking them about what they would do in an active shooter scenario. Training empowers people to make the right decisions. Lastly, I'll say that just a week after this conversation I had with my own family, as I gave them the training that I would want them to have, a kid brought a gun to Hanahan High School. We got an email that day from a Hanahan High School principal informing parents that a student had brought a gun to school. Now, he had been apprehended, he was in custody, and the threat had been neutralized. But for that to happen a week after my conversation with my kids really made me say, y'all have to do something. Do y'all want to have a school shooting in your district knowing that you didn't take steps to arm your kids, our kids, with what might save their lives? Please consider that. It's not onerous, it's easy, and it can be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Our final speaker for this evening is Mr. Willis Sanders on Board Recognition Month. Board recognition on behalf of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. Welcome back, my friend.
Happy New Year's, everyone.
Happy New Year.
To my long-term friend and fellow educator, Board Chair David Barrow, mentee and Superintendent Deion Jackson, and board members, I come to you this evening on behalf of my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, as we celebrate January as School Board Recognition Month. As we prepare for this commemoration of the Mlk Holiday this weekend, we are reminded of one of his most famous quotes, which is, "Everybody can be great because everybody can serve." Dr. King, who was also an Alpha man, believed and modeled the heart of the fraternity, servant of all. Worldwide, the fraternity is promoting service to our community. Therefore, on behalf of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity and the other Greek organizations, we want to extend our appreciation for your role at board to achieve the Berkeley County School District mission and vision for the best interests of all of our students, especially during these challenging times. Having served on several local, state, and national boards, I have an awareness of the complexity of your positions. Finally, as Berkeley County is dear to my heart, I will remain prayerful as you as a board proceed through each day, each week, and each month of 2022, and may God continue to bless you individually and collectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. We appreciate that very much. That concludes the citizen comment portion of the meeting. We'll move on as any action is required from items from executive session. And we have 3 student expulsion appeals. We'll hear the motion for the expulsion appeal of student number 1.
Mr. Chairperson, I move that we deny the appeal and uphold the expulsion for student number 1.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. McQuillan, second from Mr. Ramsey to deny the appeal of student number 1. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously by a vote of 6-0. We'll now entertain a motion for student number 2 expulsion appeal.
Mr. Chair, in the matter of student number 2, I move that we grant the appeal and assign student number 2 to the alternative school.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. McQuillan to accept the appeal and assign the student to the Berkeley Alternative School for the remainder of the year. Second from Ms. Wofford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Nay. Those that responded with a yay, please raise your hand. Motion carries by a vote of 4, we'll say 2. We'll now entertain a motion for expulsion appeal of student number 3.
Mr. Chairperson, I move that we deny the appeal and uphold the expulsion in the matter of student number 3.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. McQuillan, a second from Mr. Ramsey to deny the appeal of the expulsion appeal of student number 3. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All of those in favor of the motion to deny the appeal, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
I have a motion and a second and a vote of 5-1 to approve the appeal. The motion carries by a vote of 5-1.
Deny.
Oh, excuse me, to deny the appeal.
Ms. Tanner has a.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Tanner has a motion. Don't you have one more motion?
I do.
Yes, you have one more motion on the table from executive session.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration as discussed in executive session.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Tanner, a second from Ms. Wofford to accept the recommendation of the HR information as presented in executive session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. The next item is 6A, temporary committee assignments if the quorum for any committee is not present. Although there are several members absent, we do have a quorum for each committee. And at this time, we will indicate that, and we will see those temporarily. So the next item is the superintendent's report. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Barrow. Good evening, Mr. Barrow.
Good evening.
Board members, ladies and gentlemen, audience, cabinet. Welcome back. Welcome back to school. Welcome back to welcome to 2022. We trust that everyone's had a restful and enjoyable break. I hope you took this time to recharge so we can refocus on our goals and complete this year successfully. This is our first full week with students back in the classrooms, and unfortunately, we're still operating in the midst of this rise of the Omicron variant of COVID-19. We're continuing to operate according to our standard COVID-19 procedures. And we're updating our principals and nurses regarding these changes to our guidelines as quickly as we possibly can. The CDC and DHEC guidelines have relaxed from when we first started about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now. It's the quarantine and isolation days have been drastically reduced. You can find the guidelines on our website with information concerning maximally vaccinated and fully vaccinated status, as well as information regarding quarantine and isolation. I do want to ask that everyone is patient with our school level personnel. They're doing the best that they possibly can to ensure that students are in school. while also ensuring the safety and following the ever-changing guidelines. So please have a little grace and patience with our school level folks. If your child is a BCSD student and needs to be vaccinated or needs to be tested, we're operating 5 drive-through appointment-only testing sites. So only current Berkeley County School District staff and enrolled students can be tested at these sites. You must have an appointment scheduled by the school nurse to be tested at these sites. And the following sites are Cane Bay Elementary School, and they're testing from 4 to 5:30. Mlk Holiday Elementary School, they're testing from 3 to 5 o'clock. St. Stephen Middle School, they're testing from 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. All of these times are p.m. in the afternoon. Westview Middle School, they're testing from 3:30 to 5:45. In Whitesville Elementary School, they're testing from 3 to 5 p.m. In addition, we've also partnered with MUSC to offer vaccination clinics for our staff, students, and families. Principals will receive this information, will start sharing more regarding these vaccination clinics with their staff, with their students and families, in addition to information to register for these events. And so that will be published soon if you haven't already seen it. In addition, I'm asking for your support and cooperation of our family, the support and cooperation of our families and our communities, and to ensure that our staff and students stay healthy and our schools continue to operate with in-person instruction. We know it's very important. Our schools mirror our communities, and so that we ask and encourage our staff, our students and families, and our communities to follow our DHEC guidelines. And finally, I want to take a moment to recognize Ms. Jenna Wells and Dr. Kim McLaren, who was supervised in the Office of Technology by Ms. Diane Driggers, for their hard work and dedication to Berkeley County School District. As the district was acknowledged in December for having our first online course certified by Quality Matters. Quality Matters is a national nonprofit organization that establishes standards and tools for quality assurance in virtual and online programs. Thanks to the work of this dynamic duo, Berkeley County is the first school in the district, the first school district in the Lowcountry to attain a Quality Matters certification for one of its courses. Currently, Berkeley County School District has developed more online courses than any other district in the region and is a leader in the state for online and virtual learning. Mr. Barrow, that concludes my remarks for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Excuse me. The next agenda item is board chair report. I have a couple of items. Number one is that the next board meeting on January 25th, the board will sign the South Carolina School Board Member Ethical Principles poster and pledge to honor these principles. That's at the next meeting. In addition, I'd like to make some comments based upon some information and some concerns that have come to me from citizens and from other individuals. It's basically relative to what one of the comments were tonight, citizens' comments, and that is on December 6th, there was a bill filed in the South Carolina Senate, Senate Bill 910. It was filed by Senator Larry Grooms, basically taking the realignment or reapportionment of the county council seats, which the map is, I think, on the website now, and aligning the school board seats to those 8 county council seats. That's part of this bill. As you can see, there are currently 9 school board members. 8 of these would be, if this bill passed, 8 of these would be in the same district, geographic district, as the county council, and then there would be 1 at-large school board seat. In addition, if this bill passes, all 9 of these school board districts would be up for election this year, which is unheard of. It's unprecedented, and it's something that we do not support. I do not support. Let me just say this, I'm speaking for myself and not for the board. But I will say that I do not know of any board member, and I am for sure that I was not contacted by the person who filed this bill. So this board chair was not aware before the fact and has not been involved after the fact by Senator Grooms. So this, I do not know the end game. I do not know why this happened. I do know that I have not been informed and have not been spoken. I have not spoken to Senator Grooms about why he has done this. Now, I'm not suggesting anything nefarious. I'm simply saying it seems to me inappropriate for a local senator to file a bill in the South Carolina Senate that will affect this school board and the school board representation of the 9 districts in this county without consulting or at least advising that this bill was going to be filed. I find it appalling and I find it disrespectful that this has happened without the information, not necessarily the consent, but at least the involvement of this board. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn so that the committees may convene.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Tanner, a second from Mr. McQuillan to adjourn this meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question to adjourn. All in favor of adjourn, say aye. 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 Any opposed, nay. We are adjourned by a vote of 6-0, and Mr. Ramsey will chair the Committee on Academics and Innovation.
I'm calling the Committee on Academics and Innovation to order. I declare there is a quorum of committee members present and note that the media has been given proper notice pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act. The agenda item I have tonight is the Head Start Budget Expenditure Report for November 2021, Credit Card Report for November 2021, Selection Criteria and Head Start Grant Application. What is the pleasure of the committee?
Chair, I motion to approve the Head Start Budget Expenditure Report for November 2021, Credit Card Report for November 2021, Selection Criteria and Head Start Grant Application.
Second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor of this motion respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed respond by saying nay. The motion is approved by a vote of 2-0. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this committee meeting so that the Finance and Capital Planning Committee meeting may begin.
I motion to...
Second. All those in favor of adjourning respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're now adjourned.
I'm calling the Committee on Finance and Capital Planning to order. I declare there is a quorum of committee members present and note that the media has been given proper notice pursuant to FOIA. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. The first item on the agenda is out-of-state travel. Ms. Smith, you are recognized.
Good evening, Chairman McQuillan, Mr. Jackson, and board members. Administration is requesting approval for out-of-state travel as presented.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve out-of-state travel as presented.
Second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the out-of-state travel as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Second agenda item is the finance update, second quarter 2021-2022. Ms. Smith, you are again recognized. This is an information-only item.
Thank you. This financial update this evening is through the second quarter of 21-22 school year. The results for the second quarter for the general fund include total revenue of $116 million, with $31 million from local tax revenue and $84 million in state funding. Expenditures were $133.5 million, with 83% in salaries and benefits, totaling $111.3 million. We have spent $17 million in purchase services and another $4.5 million in supplies. We have a total of $5.5 million encumbered, leaving us with a balance of $200 million for the remainder of 2022. Looking at the comparison from last year to this year for the second quarter, local tax revenue is higher than second quarter fiscal year 21. State revenue is showing less than this time last year, but this is due to receiving our property tax reimbursement of $3 million for December in January of this year. Last year, the payment was posted in December, so we are on target as projected. On the expense side, the salaries and benefits are higher in 2021. However, keep in mind that in second quarter of 21, a retention payment was given to our employees for a total of $6.1 million. So actual salaries for 21 was closer to $105.8 million. With the step increase, the percentage increase, and the increase to retirement, expenditures for salaries and benefits are as projected for the second quarter, and 2021 is not higher when based on actual salaries paid during the year. Purchase services, supplies, and pupil services are all comparable from last year to this year and are on target as projected. For the special revenue budget, we have $14.3 million in revenues and $18.6 in expenditures. Because most of these funds are claim-based, it's not unusual for expenditures to be higher than revenue throughout the year. The special revenue budget also contains CARES, ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, which will be broken down on the next two slides. Of the $6.8 million for CARES, $1.8 million is the remaining budget for 2021. We have spent $91,000 through second quarter and have another $119,000 encumbered. This fund expires on 6/30/2022, and all remaining funds must be spent by the end of this school year. The allocation for ESSER 2 is $32 million, and we have processed one claim in the amount of $3.3 million, which was received in the second quarter, and total expenditures are $4.2 million and another $12.8 million encumbered, which is mostly for the upcoming roofing projects. The ESSER 3 fund budget is $72.5 million. We've spent $3 million through the second quarter, and revenue has not been received for the claims processed through the second quarter. For EIA funding, we received $15.7 million in state sources and expended $3.6 million, mostly in salaries and benefits. The capital fund budget includes our carryover of $22.5 million and the new funds received in September of $41 million. Through 12/31, we've expended $15.8 million and encumbered another $15 million. Improvement fees collected for Carnes Crossroads total $48,000, and there have been no expenditures to date. Child Nutrition has received $8.5 million in revenues this year. At this time of the year, we normally see expenditures over revenue, but we have received additional revenue in the amount of $1.3 million as an operational cost reimbursement program for child nutrition services. Expenditures are $7.7 million, with the majority of costs for supplies for schools. All students are currently receiving free meals, and we will continue through the end of this year. I have not heard any information at this time on an extension, but I will keep you posted as we obtain information. Are there any questions?
Questions, Mr. Barrow, other board members? All right, we'll go to the third agenda item, which is RFP number 617, 2021-2022, cell tower leasing and/or licensing. Ms. Smith, you're recognized again.
Thank you, Chairman McQuillan. Could I ask Marcy Abrahamson to join me? Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman McQuillan, board members. RFP 617-2122 for cell tower leasing and/or licensing was conducted to test the current market for possible revenue-generating opportunities in the cell tower leasing licensing arena. The district received one responsive and responsible offer from APC Edge Telecom Services, LLC. A virtual interview was conducted with the two primary business partners to discuss their proposed offer. After that discussion, all evaluators concurred that this was a great opportunity for the district to generate additional revenue and hopefully increase cell signals in the rural areas of Berkeley County. The initial term shall be for 10 years with the option to renew for 2 additional 5-year terms. Subsequent renewals after the initial 20-year term shall be subject to board approval. APC Edge provided projected revenues for 50 years to demonstrate the potential revenues that could be generated from an ongoing long-term commitment. These projections are based on establishing 19 cell towers in various locations throughout the district by the end of the initial 10-year contract term. Based on the information provided to the evaluation committee, we're recommending award to APC Edge Telecom Services LLC for an estimated revenue for the initial 10-year term of $6,868,101. An estimated revenue for the full 20-year term as $18,595,884. And if we have the potential for the 50 years, it would be $73,180,340.
I have a question, Mac. So I think it's been a couple of years ago, we had someone come and present on cell phone towers and revenue and all that. Is this the same company or is this a different company?
No, ma'am, this is going to be a different company. We did this research back in 2014, and Milestone was awarded a 10-year contract with potential revenues of, I think it was $4.3 million, and a potential sites of 12. To date, we've only done 1 site, and we have not generated the revenue that we initially were projecting to generate. One thing that came out of this process, we did find that Milestone has competing agencies within our area that are competing for cell towers. So say there's a cell tower on another property that's right down the road from one of our properties, we're less likely to get that. So Milestone is kind of competing agencies within this area, either private or public. And so that's why I think some of this didn't come to fruition like we thought it would. Now, APC Edge has no competing interest in this area, and we would be their sole client in this area.
I have another question about location on our properties. Do we have any buffers, barriers? Cell phone towers on top of schools makes me very nervous of putting that on top of where children and our employees are all day. So is it talking about going near where schools are, or we're talking about other property we own?
Some of it is near schools, and there is, we have no rooftop, we are agreeing to no rooftop towers. We're not agreeing to any towers at this point. Everything with the 19 sites they've identified will be a collaboration once this is awarded between, and we don't have to do all 19, we don't have to do any, that's what they're projecting so that they can provide us our revenue. And we kind of we divided our district up into different zones and gave them priorities on which zones we wanted to address first, and mostly was the rural areas where the cell tower signals are very weak. But from the information that's been provided up to this point, the cell towers will be erected away from the schools, and there will be a fenced barrier around it, signage, very well identified, and outside of proximity of the day-to-day operation.
The existing tower that we have now at Sedgefield Middle is actually located at what Goose Creek High uses for their baseball field. Mm-hmm. And although the property of the middle school is not as large as we would want, and so spacing is not as desirable, it is away from the actual school and what students use on a day-to-day basis. Now, we did have to make some adjustments for the baseball team, and we were able to use some of the revenue generated from the tower to make those adjustments for the baseball team. But it is fenced. Those are the barriers that are in place, and it is complete with signage. And so it's not in an area of the campus where students traverse regularly on a day-to-day basis. Now, the baseball team does have navigated some, but as far as your regular school operations, it does not impede the regular school operations, nor do students interface with that area on a day-to-day basis.
So the location of these towers are 19 over 10 years, is that what?
They've identified 19 potential sites, yes, sir.
The location would be agreeable with our consent and the company's agreement?
Yes, sir.
Of the located sites?
Yes.
So that we wouldn't be saying, no, you can't have it there, and them insisting. So it's a mutual agreement?
Yes, sir.
And I'm probably showing my ignorance, but do these cell phone towers have any way to boost Wi-Fi in some of these rural areas, or probably not? I know we're talking about cell phones.
I think it will increase the cell signal, but not necessarily the internet.
Not
Diane,
the internet.
you can help me
Okay, I
with
was
that
hopeful.
one.
That's because, we need.
Understandable.
Yeah, okay.
So do we have or would we have a set of requirements, or 10 years is a long time for, I guess, the people sitting up here, or even for you, to make sure if we do pass this, that the intent of the board to not put it in places where students are and the safety aspect, do we have any requirements for that? Is that a part of the contract, or?
It is not a part of the contract as of yet. Once we, I believe Mr. Jackson's vision would probably be to set up a committee, an internal committee with facilities, probably some principals and different folks to kind of go over and have a kickoff meeting with APC and kind of go over expectations and have open discussions and dig further in. This proposal was done just to test the market and to see what the potential was. It doesn't mean this is what we're gonna do. It just means this is where the opportunity is and how much of that opportunity do we want to tap into.
Sorry, I think I'm done.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the award of RFP 617-2122 for cell tower leasing and or licensing to APC Edge Telecom Services, LLC, for initial term of 10 years, generating an estimated revenue of $6,868,101, with the option to renew for 2 additional 5-year terms, with an estimated 20-year potential revenue of $18,595,884.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? The third agenda item fails for a second. I think I'd like to have some more information, specifics from APC before we approve this in terms of where they're thinking their locations are, potential health concerns, locational concerns. There's a lot of unknowns, and before I do a second, I'd like to have that information. Fourth agenda item is the BCSD Minority Business Enterprise Utilization Plan, the MBE plan. Ms. Smith, you are again recognized.
I'd like to recognize Marcy Abrahamson.
As you know, in December, we approved a new procurement code to take effect January 1st. This new minority business plan coincides with that code, and the percentages and the parameters that are dictated by the new code, and we are to bring this to the board for approval annually. So we will do this approval for this plan this month, and then again, we will do this every year in August and bring a new plan forth each year.
Did we use a template, or did somebody write it? Because it's pretty well written, so thank you for whoever.
There was a basic template I modified that slightly, and then we also discussed having an internal goal that was, the procurement code dictates the 10%, but we had long discussions about our potential we can't override the state's law of the 10%. However, we can set an internal goal over and above that 10%. However, I think to begin with, we need to stay at that 10% just until we see how we progress, because we're already going from a 1/2% was the old goal, and that we've lived with for a very long time. And we've had years that we've struggled to meet that goal. So jumping all the way up to 10% is going to be a tough challenge for us. And that's what this plan is going to do, is going to put us out there and do some more community building with our minority business folks to hopefully generate better minority business revenues for our district and to get closer to our goal. And if we can overcome some of the obstacles that are in our way, we hopefully can set an internal goal higher than that 10%.
I don't know if you have a connection with the small business and minority folks at South Carolina Department of Transportation, but they communicate to that group of businesses anything that goes up for bid, and it generates a lot of interest. So I don't know, y'all probably have already made that contact, but...
Yes, ma'am, I've obtained their list of approved minority vendors.
Excellent.
Any other questions? If they're hearing none, I move to approve the Berkeley County School District Minority Business Enterprise Utilization Plan. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
I am calling the Committee on Human Resources to order. I declare there is a quorum of committee members present, and note that the media has been given proper notice pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second, we have a motion by Ms. Wofford to approve the agenda and a second by Ms. Tanner. Any discussion? All in favor of this motion, respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion is approved by a vote of 2-0. The first agenda item is policy IKE, promotion, retention, and acceleration of students. Second reading. Dr. Karen Whitley, you are recognized.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Superintendent Jackson, and board members. We are requesting second reading approval of policy IKE, promotion, retention, and acceleration of students. The policy was last revised in 2019. The updated version seeks to establish the minimum requirements for promotion each year for high school students. The changes align with the state regulations for graduation and ensures that students are progressing successfully toward the completion in 4 years. Revisions also include other minor changes. Are there any questions?
What is the pleasure of the committee?
Madam Chair, I move to approve policy IKE, promotion, retention, and acceleration of students. Second reading.
A second. There is a motion by Ms. Wofford and a second by myself. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. The motion is approved, 2-0. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved, 2-0. We are adjourned.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming.